I now hand the conference over to Mr. S.R. Dev. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone who is present on the call. Along with me, I have Mr. P. Srinivasan, our Chief Financial Officer, and SGA, our Investor Relations Advisor. Hope you all have received our investor presentation by now. For those who have not, you can view them on the stock exchanges and the company website. We trust and pray that you and your families are safe, healthy, and secure. We request you all to follow highest safety precautions and ensuring adherence to COVID-19 protocol. We at NOSIL have always believed in following strict safety culture and COVID-19 protocols to ensure safety of all employees during the pandemic. All the directions published by various government agencies were strictly followed and were included as COVID-19 SOP. We wish to even add that we have encouraged all our employees, contract workmen to strictly adhere to vaccination schedules. We are happy that we could conduct vaccination camps and ensure that 100% employees, their spouse, and regular contract laborers are vaccinated at both the sites. Second vaccination will be completed in October. Coming to performance of Q1 FY22, of course, it cannot be compared on YOY basis with Q1 FY21, since during Q1 FY21, due to the national-wide lockdown, the plants were down for some time. As can be seen, this financial year has started with a better performance. This was possible due to selling price upward revision from April 21 to offset the significant increase in the input cost. This came in handy to offset the loss of margin due to dip in sales volume when compared with volume parameters in QE March 21. The dip is largely due to the lockdown imposed at our customers' end consequent to second wave of COVID-19. On an average, customer plants were shut down in certain specific regions for 2 to 3 weeks, reflecting the lower sales volume. Resultantly, the absolute EBITDA and EBITDA margins have improved. Going forward, we expect better utilization of our capacities with some legacy cost on account of high cost of raw material likely to be consumed in Q2 FY22. On the industry scenario, we have seen a steady recovery in tire industry in India after the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and the long-term outlook is expected to be favorable. The pandemic did hamper the industry. However, reports from tire companies do indicate positive on mid to long-term outlook. This has also been endorsed by a report of a reputed credit rating agency of India. Recovery in demand for both replacement tires and OEM segment is expected, along with increase in demand for Indian tires in export market. Restrictions on imports of tire continue to help the domestic tire companies to operate at high operating rates. This is of course subject to COVID-19 interruptions in future. The China Plus strategy is also shaping well in achieving our growth trajectory. NOSIL will be the one who stands to benefit the most with capacity availability and better cost position and long-standing relationship with both domestic and international tire majors. The global consumption of rubber data for both natural and synthetic rubber continues to show signs of upward trend. The annualized rubber consumption for January to March 21 shows a growth of approximately 10% compared to full calendar year of 2020. It is important to note that calendar year 2020 registered a degrowth of 6% as compared to calendar year 2019, which indicates that calendar year 21 is likely to register a growth of approximately 3 to 4% as compared to calendar year 2019, based on the trends witnessed in first 3 months of calendar year 2021. Considering our recent capacity addition, our endeavor will be to capture a large share of this volume growth, thus improving our market share. We will continue to monitor the domestic market and automobile business to dovetail our growth plans at appropriate time. This is from my side. Now I will hand it over to Mr. P. Srinivasan.
Thank you, Mr. Dev, and good morning to everyone. Hope you all are safe and in good health. Let us run through the financials of the company for the Q1 FY22. As Mr. Dev indicated, due to the lockdown situation which prevailed in large part during Q1 FY21, the performance of Q1 FY22 are not strictly comparable with Q1 FY21. Now coming to the sales volumes for Q1 FY22 grew by 29%, taking a base of Q1 FY20, or 30% I would say. In the index terms, if Q1 FY20 was 100, in Q1 FY22 it's 130. On a sequential basis, volume for Q1 FY22 were impacted due to second wave of COVID-19 in the customer's end, and more specifically in the domestic market, whereas volumes in exports registered a growth. Net revenue, on the revenue front, net revenue from operations for Q1 FY22 stood at 345 crores from 322 crores as compared to Q4 FY21, a sequential growth of 8%. The sales growth was largely driven by price hikes taken during January 21 and April 21. The price hike was taken across domestic as well as export markets to commensurate to match the cost increase significantly, which started from October 20 onwards. On the value addition front, Q1 FY21 recorded 170 crores. As stated during our previous earning calls, our absolute EBITDA margin was improved in Q1 FY22 as compared to Q4 FY21. As indicated earlier, our aim during the quarter was to maintain and improve absolute profitability rather than on percentage basis, and fortunately, our strategy of consolidating the profitability has turned in our favor. Coming to the operating EBITDA parameters. Operating EBITDA parameters for Q1 FY22 stood at 73 crores as against 50 crores in the previous quarter, that is Q4 FY21, and a sequential growth of 40-odd%. EBITDA margin stood at, as a percentage for the quarter, stood at 21% plus as compared to 15.5% plus in Q4 FY21, representing an increase of 540 basis points. As already indicated, EBITDA is driven by the corresponding sales price increases. That's the benefit. Profit before tax for the quarter June 21 stood at 63 crores as compared to 43 crores for March 21 quarter, a growth of 45% plus. Profit after tax stood at 47 crores for the quarter ended June 21 as compared to 36 crores for QE March 21. That's it from the financials parameters. With this, we would like to open the floor for question answers.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Ladies and gentlemen, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, would request you to rejoin the queue. The first question is from the line of Dhiman Shah from One Up Finance. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for this opportunity. Just 2 questions. You mentioned that, you are still in the process of garnering market share, and you see a favorable tailwind as far as the size of opportunity goes. So where would you be in the journey of, kind of being the second preferred supplier, which you have alluded to many times in the past, as far as, your approval for the new plant goes? So if you can just help us understand that, number one. Number two, moving forward, would you say that this margins are maintainable given the course correction in the raw material and our ability to kind of also pass through whatever costs have gone up in the recent past? So if you can answer these two, please.
Mr. Devansha, the issue is 2 points, twofold. I think we have already indicated that our market share or our aim is to ramp up the capacity utilization to 100% of the facility setup by September 23 or thereabout. So we are targeting that as a journey, and we want to achieve that around that time. We would be happy if we could achieve much earlier, but we have to give it the space and the time for other customers to open out additional operating plants to supply our materials.
But last 2 years we have already been, once the phase one was open, I presume you would have done fair amount of sampling and allowed enough time to the customers for approval of the samples. So possibly that journey is almost over. Would you kind of, agree to that statement, or?
No, the journey of basically, unless we get into the orders in that to that size, the journey is not over. Yes, the discussions have started, the sampling has started, but ultimately, as we start supplying, as we build a confidence to the customers, it takes time they start depending on us and trusting us. So you have to give them the time, and once the supply has started, it takes about 4 to 6 quarters before we mature into full business. Now, that's number one. Number two, we are a multi-product company. So it's not a customer is only taking product A. There could be other products also, product B and C. It's a combination of several products from the basket which we want to offer to the customer. And wherever we are not present in a particular set of products, we would like to expand there and enlarge our market share or presence there in that customer's portfolio. So that's how we look at it. So we are looking at a horizon of 2 years or 2.5 years from today to 2 years, 3 months more specific to achieve this entire objective. And if assuming that we come to the September 23, the market share automatically goes up to maybe 7-8% by the time. So that's the target which we are looking at. Now, on a global rubber chemicals market share, as far as India is concerned, we are already a dominant domestic manufacturer. Of course, import is the main competitor. That's we all understand that. Now, coming to the profitability parameters, it all depends on how each player plays at each quarter or each period of time. What we have seen in the last 6 months, and that's what we have been communicating to investors at large, that the cost increases are being passed on in the form of proportionate price increases, essentially which indicates that the market, the so-called the temporary surplus which was there on account of degrowth, etc., has probably evened out, or maybe some supply at certain locations are having some difficulties. So that's why the cost increases are being in a position to being passed on. Of course, with a lag, there could be some time lag, etc., here and there. But the principle is, if you look at a horizon over a period of 2-3 quarters, everything gets evened out. So, assuming that there is no further supply surplus, we are reasonably confident to pass on the cost increases or mitigate the cost effects.
Great. And sir, you mentioned that our objective in your opening statement, you mentioned that our objective was to kind of maintain absolute margins rather than percentage margins, and I believe that we have about 25 to 30%, which is specialty grade. So would this statement be more applicable to the non-specialty grade, or it is applicable across the board?
It is mainly for non-specialty grades.
Great.
That's where the acute competition is there.
Right.
Specialty grade, the competition is there, but is relatively minimal.
Super. Thanks so much, Mr. Srinivasan. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Madhav Marda from Fidelity Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so good morning. Thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to understand if you could give us just like a overview of the rubber chemicals industry globally in terms of the current demand supply dynamics and what's the capacity utilization right now. That's the first part of the question. The second part is what are the new supplies or any supply shutdowns, especially in China, that you expect in the next 2-3 years? Just to give an overview of the industry. Thank you.
I would say on the global demand, you should look at the global rubber consumption parameters. If you look at the January-March data, we are looking at something like 30 million tons of rubber. So you have to take 3.5% of that as the rubber consumption or rubber chemicals consumption demand. So that's the key point. We have already indicated in the past that more than 75% of the supply is originated out of China, and maybe about 20% is coming from Europe or Europe controlled units, and others is then India is NOSIL is the third in that sense in the sequence of this. What we are trying to give a message or communicate is that China has a dominant share in the supply chain of rubber chemicals. The China Plus One strategy is the customers are looking at a situation where to de-risk some of China. We don't know how it will actually unfold, but the action points or the reactions from the customers over the last 1 year or 1.5 years, we have seen that customers are looking at de-risking a little bit of China, and therefore it spreads out an opportunity or creates an opportunity for a non-Chinese player. And NOSIL being in the non-Chinese player category and having expanded capacities are in a position to offer or service the same. This is the key point which we would like to say. As far as the shutdowns or supply shortages from China, I think it's very difficult to predict. To get information from China is $1 million. It's a mystery altogether. So if we get anything, we will let you know.
Understood. So, it's a 1.1 million ton broadly the demand pie for rubber chemicals. How much would the installed supply be right now? Is it like balanced out, or is it a little bit on the higher side than that?
See, if you look at the rated capacities on record, it is still the capacities supply excess is there. But at operating level, we don't know what is exactly the operating level. We deduce from the operating level, and because the trades are done at the operating level capability-wise. So it's difficult to guess who is operating at what level, etc. So that's what. And moreover, see, as far as NOSIL is concerned, we generally discuss at strategic level with customers, not getting into day-to-day operation level. At strategic level, if the relationship is good, then the business automatically gets passed down to NOSIL, and we are in a position to service the same, and we are able to encash that opportunity.
And just one last question from my side was, generally what we see is that in many of the chemical products, the cost structures of Indian companies are actually becoming stronger versus the Chinese players in some of the categories at least. In rubber chemicals, would we say that our capacity is now at par or maybe a little cheaper versus China to produce, or is there still China cheaper on the cost structure?
To answer this, we have to look at the Chinese economy principles. And as per WTO legislation or the World Trade Organization often categorizes China as a non-market economy principles. They don't believe in following the market economy principles. So the pricing parameters, the state interference is regularly there, and that's why it is being categorized as NME in the WTO parlance. So strictly the cost positions of a market economy player versus a non-market economy player are not strictly comparable, because we don't know what sort of subsidies, what sort of benefits are they entitled to from a government. So it's anyone's guess to get into the specifics. We don't have full information about it, but we have a range idea, and that's why they are in a position to compete. So whereas NOSIL is competing, say for example, let's assume for a moment a product is costed 100 rupees, 100, just a unit of 100, and China is getting say 10% subsidy or 20% subsidy. So they are coming at 80, and that's how they price their product. NOSIL is able to still match that price and achieve or compete in the marketplace and get some sufficient volumes to that. So it indicates indirectly that NOSIL technology capability is reasonably strong and competent enough to match the same.
Okay. And just, is there any new supply which is expected in the rubber chemicals market? Like any announced supplies or capacities that we are aware of coming in the next 2-3 years?
No. Not that any fresh announcements are there. There is no recent announcement.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhargav Buddhadev from Kotak. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, team, and thank you for the opportunity. My first question is that you mentioned in your remarks that you want to reach 100% utilization by September 23. So are we factoring in a significant shift in terms of export mix from presently 35%, or you believe that export domestic mix will broadly remain the same?
Gentlemen, we have already answered this in the past that our objective is to take the export share in the overall revenue basket to 40%. So, though we maybe be 30-35%, but we intend to take it to 40%, and that's how we have envisaged a plan on that basis.
Okay, so mix will, you are factoring in from 35% to 40%.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we are sort of banking upon this significant opportunity coming in from the Indian tire suppliers, Indian tire companies only, or are we looking at that mix also changing from the present 65% of revenue?
Wherever the growth opportunity comes, we would be very keen to encash the same. But the discussions are already on with both the domestic tire industry for a long-term basis as well as the international tire companies.
Okay. And do you believe that the Indian tire companies may also be looking at a significant export opportunity as the China Plus One opportunity pulls up?
Indian tire industry, I think they are exporting about 20% of their production to the export market. So we don't have any other details at this stage. So I think with tire restrictions in place, tire import restrictions in place, obviously their domestic needs are much higher. So I don't know what is the future plan. We don't have right now with that information with us.
In terms of your margins of about 21% which you reported, these are margins similar to when there was an anti-dumping duty. So now that the duty doesn't exist, so what has led to such margins coming back? I mean, is there a change in the cost structure, or is there a sort of reducing imports from China? What is driving this margins back to 21%?
I think two folds. One is the improvement in the cost structure in terms of better technology, optimization of resources on a higher volume plate, and market conditions, the degrowth parameters which was existing maybe 2 years before, that has probably tapered off. So these are 2-3 factors which we can attribute to that.
So the share of Chinese imports continues to remain at the earlier levels, or you have seen some reduction in the Chinese imports?
Some marginal reduction, nothing great. It continues to be the imports into India and rubber chemicals parameters about 48-50%.
And any update on this anti-dumping duty, or we don't believe that this duty will sort of come back again?
I think the recommendation has come from the Commerce Ministry. Now the ball is in Finance Ministry's court. Maybe it's a due process, and we'll know after some time.
But our expansion plans are not on the basis of any duty being levied, right? I mean, we assume
we didn't consider this factors that anti-dumping duty should continue, because the conditions at the time of business conditions at the time of conceiving the expansion plans was quite different. So.
And lastly, have you seen any expansion from your domestic competitors like Laxmi, PMC or Merchem, or they are not expanding?
Some marginal expansions we have heard about it. They are not in the listed companies, so obviously unlisted companies don't announce openly. But we heard from the market sources that there are some expansions, marginal expansion, not great, not as significant as Nucil.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, and all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, would request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Dev from BNP Paribas. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir, and congratulations on a good set of numbers. Just two questions. We have seen an increase in staff costs quarter-on-quarter. So has that to do with the the new capacity expansion? The last phase which you did, or is there some one-off in there?
There is an element of one-off thing because there were some welfare initiatives which the company had to incur. On account of the COVID aspects, number one. And number two, typically in the June quarter, you will have the retirement provisions going on a higher side because of the actual valuation. It will taper off during the subsequent quarters.
Okay. Could you just quantify the amount of one-off, if possible?
I think it's not appropriate to get into such specifics, please.
Okay, fine. And secondly, sir, what has been you mentioned that, export volumes have grown actually, even on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So if you can just quantify that, how much was the growth in exports, and if possible, the revenues from exports for the quarter?
I think revenues is about 135 crores for the quarter. I think volume index parameters, I think maybe 155 thereabout.
Okay. Fine. Thank you very much and all the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Jain from Credence Wealth. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on a wonderful set of numbers, sir. A couple of questions. In the previous quarter con call, you had mentioned the capacity which was capitalized was additional 20,000. So I suppose at the end of quarter 4, the capacity was 90,000. So additional 20,000 has been capitalized in this current quarter?
Yes.
So today the capacity will be 110,000?
Yeah, 110,000.
And sir, what was the capacity addition for quarter 1 when I take the rated capacity at 110,000?
Maybe 60-62% thereabout.
60-62% based on 110,000.
Yeah.
Sure. One more thing in yesterday's AGM.
My mistake. My apologies. 1 minute. I'll just get you that. It should be. Maybe around 70%, 68-70%. Sorry.
Sir, in yesterday's AGM, the management stated that the current year we are at around 80% capacity utilization. So I assume we are talking about the month of July where we must be now operating at 80% of 110,000. And secondly, management spoke about the statement given was at full capacity turnover will be 2x than now at today's prices. So just to get a clarity when we speak about 2x at today's prices, because when our expansion started, we had stated that with the asset turnover, somewhere at March 19 prices, we should be doing a 2x top line, which would have meant somewhere around 1,800 crores of top line. So yesterday's AGM statement, I'm a bit confused. When we speak about 2x sales, what could that amount be at full capacity?
Gentlemen, two things. One is to clarify, when we conceived the project, we always said 2x at 2018 prices, not 2019 prices. Point number one. Point number two, as far as capacity utilization of 80% is concerned, I think Mr. Chairman indicated that this was the question related to FY 2021, what was the operations in the last quarter. So that is how he has answered. So we are not talking about 21-22 capacity utilization. We only talked about 2021 parameters and more specifically the fourth quarter. Okay, that's the second clarification. Thirdly, the revenue parameters today is very subjective because it depends on at what cost price you are going to procure your inputs. So it's a cost plus situation or a cost equivalent situation. So if the crude goes to 75 to 100, the whole equation changes. The crude goes to 60, the equation changes. So what we have only given a guidance is it's 2x on 2018 prices. We have also modified that if it was 2019 prices, it was something like 1.85x. So we continue to maintain it will be around 1.85 to 2x.
Thanks for that clarification, sir. And lastly, sir, as you mentioned, we operated around 70% capacity addition on a rated capacity of 110,000.
Yeah.
So expecting the utilization to move further up as the quarter goes by, as the next few quarters go up, there could be some amount of operating leverage which would be possible. Is that assumption right?
Yeah, if we are going to utilize more capacity, definitely operating leverage is an automatic resultant effect.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for the clarifications and the replies, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, would request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Aditya Khetan from Stewart and Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Yeah. And thanks for the opportunity. So my first question is, sir, we are seeing some inventory gain in this quarter. So have we utilized some low-cost inventory which we had, and that led to inventory gain? Is this assumption correct, sir?
I think inventory gain in the financials is a reflection of the production exceeding the sales volume. So that's the important effect. Yes, we had some low-cost material at the beginning of the quarter that got consumed. Definitely, as compared to the previous quarter, the inventory the raw material consumption cost is high per unit. But in relation to the high-cost material, yes, that's the reason we also clarified that there could be some legacy cost coming in Q2.
Okay. Sir, second question, sir, the aniline prices on sequential basis have gone up, but still our margin has improved, so that is offset by inventory gain. Now, when can we see the full impact of raw material to take effect in the coming quarter? So by Q2 or Q3?
Q2, mostly it should be over. That's our belief. Now, it all depends on at what rate basically there is an issue here now is that the COVID interruptions is coming. So if there is no COVID further interruptions, I think mostly Q2 will be over. But if there is some COVID interruption, there could be some spillover to Q3, but I don't think so. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Okay. So one last question. Sir, now we are seeing significant free cash flow generation, so will be done for the next 2 years. So what is the plan? Where to deploy this money now going ahead?
I think Mr. Dev will answer that.
Okay. I think this is a question which is very frequently coming, and in yesterday's address by chairman, he partly answered it, and I will repeat the answer. See, when we expand the capacities and we start streamlining the capacities, the first thing which we start looking at is what are the avenues of debottlenecking, which are our short-term goals. Okay, because debottlenecking of the plant is low-hanging fruit, and that's what we would like to encash and spend some money on that. Simultaneously, we keep on doing a long-term planning in terms of what NOCIL should do in next 3 to 5 years. Okay. Of course, when we do that planning, we look into the cash generations and how the business is going. So, short term, if you ask me, I think we are going to concentrate as we streamline the plants and as we keep on increasing the volumes. Maybe majority of the capex will get into debottlenecking. Long term, we always keep on looking at long term, but I think at this point of time, unless and until we consolidate it, okay, and get it approved from our board of directors, we cannot share.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Datta from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Congratulations on a great set of numbers, sir. So can you just give some update on what is the total tire industry capex in next 2-3 years which you have come across?
See, if you really look at it, tire industry 3 years back, 2 to 3 years back, we said that domestic tire industry is investing about 25,000 to 30,000 crores. Now, out of which some capacities have already been commissioned. Like, if you are aware, Apollo Tyres have started their plant in Andhra Pradesh. Okay. Similarly, MRF has started their plant, which was in the state of Gujarat. Okay. CIT has started their plant in Chennai. So basically, what we will have to do is we'll have to now start looking at how much has been invested and what are the commissioning. But one thing is certain, we see a optimistic view of tire industry, of tire sales in India by the tire industry, since we have been very, very close with all our domestic customers. Okay. Barring some COVID incidences here and there, they are very optimistic. They have plans to expand their capacity, And that's something which is very positive for the future of rubber chemicals.
Okay. And so secondly, despite the fact that the Q1, the volumes were down around 13% on a QOQ basis because of disturbance at the customer end, what is the volume growth you're targeting for FY22?
We would prefer to answer at a later date, but not today, because we still feel that the third wave of COVID, we have to overcome that challenge. So it's little premature. Obviously, we would look at higher volume numbers in Q2 as compared to Q1. Our target is that. Let's see how reality unfolds.
Okay. And lastly, sir, this on lower volumes, you managed to do margins of around 21%, partly because of price hikes and operating leverage. Now that the volumes, assuming that everything is normalized and no major disruptions to come by way of third wave, can we safely take around 20% margins for FY22?
Abhishek, I think we should not get into percentage basis. We should look at what is that. Ultimately, we have been given a guidance. We have been giving guidance that when your high cost materials or the input costs are on a higher level, you cannot expect the same 20% margins, etc. We have to look at what is the return coming back to you. And if the return coming back to you is appropriate and adequate, reasonable, I think we should be contented with that. Now, it all depends on the price range and the range at which the input prices are going up and the corresponding finished good prices. So one cannot get into specific numbers or percentage basis. Our endeavor is to sustain this EBITDA margins, absolute numbers or in that range as we go along. That's our objective will be there. Let's see how the market conditions unfold.
And so lastly, from Q1, have the raw material prices inched up further, or do you need to take more price hikes in the near term?
We are seeing some softening of the raw material prices. So obviously, there have been some products where the input costs have further gone up, so we have asked for a price correction. There have been some products where the input costs have come down, so it's a mix, it's a weighted average mix. So that's how good it is.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, and best of luck for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Viraj Mehta from Equirus PMS. Please go ahead.
The questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on a really good set of numbers. So the first question is in terms of strategy. So in the presentation, we have actually on the first slide indicated accelerating momentum. So any specific reason of putting up this particular tagline, and what is our strategy behind this accelerating momentum going forward? Thank you.
I think, Rohit, from last few questions, you must have understood that the objective is very clear. We have invested 450 crores of rupees in expanding the capacities. And now what we have to do is we have to take the momentum in the marketplace to put these capacities so that first thing is our global presence increases in this business. Okay. And the second thing is we ensure that the capacity utilization is very fast. So the objective, I think, in next 1 or 2 years is a very high momentum in terms of acquiring the market and ensuring that our capacity utilization, as we have been saying, by September 23, it should be 100%. Okay. And that's a momentum which we are looking for next 18 to 24 months.
Got it. Thanks for that. So the second question is, in earlier calls, we had indicated that we have developed a new accelerator, which is an import substitute with a domestic market size of about 250 crores. Any more update on the same? And yep.
Yeah, so as far as this accelerator is concerned, we have already sampled it to all the tire industries. We have got approvals from major tire industries in the country, and we have started the supplies. That's the status.
Right. Thanks a lot. And just a last clarification. So earlier Concord we had indicated we had taken price increases in Jan and April. So whether the similar increase has been put in place from July as well? Thank you.
July, I think we clarified that July is a mix of all the products. There are some products where the raw material prices have come down, and there are some products the raw materials of prices have gone up. So we have done corrections accordingly to that individual product price.
Right. Thanks a lot and best of luck, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhruv from HDFC Asset Management Company. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So first question was, how does this shipping cost increase impact you, particularly on your export side? Do you sell on FOB or CIF basis?
See, yes, we agree that there is a very steep hike in terms of freight cost. Now, we sell on CIF basis. Most of our sales is based on CIF cases. But obviously, I think all our customers are aware that there are changes in the freight cost and which has gone up vertically. And obviously, they allow us to build it in CIF.
Okay. So our numbers are considering the impact of shipping cost and the absorption by the customer. So this is reflected in our numbers.
Yeah, correct.
Got it. And so the second thing was, if I just do some implied numbers from your capacity utilization and the numbers that you have given in the PPT, on a per kg basis, it seems there is a decent increase in the EBITDA versus what has been prevailing, say, for the last 8 quarters. So, and this could be some, one-offs or something, but I'm just trying to understand, is there something structurally changing in the industry which can drive this, or it's too early to say anything?
If you ask me, it's too early to say anything because from last March, April, I think the whole world is in turmoil in terms of COVID. Okay. So if we really look at the statistics of last 6 months, it will, or 1.5 year, it will not give us a clue. Okay. What we have to do is we have to start looking at a stability and then start looking at the revenues.
Got it. And so, this a lot of product also gets imported. So I believe those guys also would be selling on CIF basis. So the landed cost of imported might have increased versus, if I'm not wrong, y'all would not increase. So is that also a trend which is benefiting us? And if the shipping cost remains high, that will continue?
See, I cannot predict about the shipping cost.
Yeah, no, I'm just I'm saying if it remains high.
I think whether you import it or you export it, I think it's going to affect both ways. So somebody who is importing, the overseas supplier would build a CIF cost in his product. So more or less it would be the same trend.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Sure, sir. Okay, get it. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have a follow-up question, would request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Shah from Girik Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. So my question is on our global market share. We met around 2-3 years back. At that time, we were having around 4-5% market share, and we were eyeing around 12% market share by calendar year 24. And then the COVID disruption has come. So for this high double-digit market share, what outlook would you give to the investors?
Okay, I think first thing is 2017-18, the reference year which you are talking of, yes, we were on 4%.
Yeah.
If you really look at our capacity expansion, the capacity expansion was exactly as envisaged for increasing the market share.
Yes.
And if you really look, as we have been saying that by September we will have, September 23, we expect a capacity utilization almost coming to 100% for the new investment. Our market share will go maybe up to 6 to 8%, or maybe it's 8%.
Okay.
Now, as I said, as we walk along, and the whole concept of momentum is like that, as we walk along, we always have technical breakthrough when we build the capacities in terms of debottlenecking. So it's not a static thing in terms of production. Okay, we will continue to look at the debottlenecking if the market grows up, so that we are a very, very reliable player in the world market. Second thing, we are capable of supplying the demand growth of the domestic and international market. Okay, so the objective remains same. Okay, maybe it is deferred by 2 years because then we have a break of 2 years because of COVID. But I think the vision remains same. It doesn't change.
So 12 to 15% global market share is what our immediate big target would be.
I am not calling it immediate because I think I am talking about September 23 going to
immediate. I would mean like the big threshold which we want to achieve as a company.
Right.
So maybe by 2 years delay, so 26, but that 50% is something what we have in our mind as the first big goal.
So I think the vision remains same. I would say that the vision remains same and there is no change in vision.
Got it. Secondly, sir, in terms of the global equilibrium of demand supply of rubber chemical, where do we stand right now?
I think we answered this question in the previous, one of the investors had asked this question. We said that from the actions taken by the competitors and the market players, it appears to be that the demand is equivalent to supply. That's how the price corrections are happening in proportion to the cost increases. In case there is a supply surplus, then the price corrections do not happen that easily. And that is what we have been witnessing over the last 6 months or thereabout. So,
okay.
It's through actions we are able to reduce it, because the rated capacity, as we said, are still on the higher side as compared to the demand. But what is being put into actually operations is a different question altogether. So from the action points taken by the various players and the leading players, especially the Chinese players, it appears that the cost increases are being passed on in the form of proportionate price increases.
So there have been some increased imports in the country as per my channel check from. So is it that the peers are losing their market share to the imports and NOSIL being a better in terms of cost structure, quality, we are not getting impacted?
Which period you are referring to?
The recent period, the last 2-3 months.
Last 2-3 months could be an aberration because there are two things here. One is this quarter experienced the second wave COVID, and when a customer has already imported or made commitments before, obviously he has to consume that material will always come in. So therefore, the 2-3 months import share going up proportionately in relation to other earlier periods could be an aberration.
Got it.
What you have to see a view of a year or 2 years data, then probably you will get a much more clarity.
Yeah, and in terms of exports also, as you look at the NOSIL's exports data, we have been growing very rapidly, and which is reflected in the current quarter margins. So should we allude a lot of gross margin expansion to the exports revenue share in the quarter?
We are not getting into specific like gross margin expansion or thing. We are looking at the payback or return back to the company in the form of EBITDA. That's what we look at it. So it's when we are pricing the product to a customer, we look at the entire cost rather than looking at stage-wise cost. We look at the composite cost, what we are going to incur, and accordingly we price the product and what is the competition offering. And if it meets it, if we are able to make decent money out of it, we will be happy about it. So it's a combination of a mix of 23 products. So a customer may take 5 products, 6 products, and depending on which overall business size we look at it, rather than specific at specific levels for each product.
Got it, sir. And sir, lastly on the
Sir, I would request you to rejoin the queue for follow-up questions.
Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rikin Shah from Omkara Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi. Congratulations on a fantastic set of numbers. I just wanted to get some clarity, if possible, on realization for our volume. So I believe in FY21 our realization had fallen. So how do we see that trend going forward?
Realization, as we indicated, that the realization has gone up two folds from January 21 as well as April 21. We have not disputed that. It is there. But what we are seeing from here onwards is the realization is commensurate with the cost increases or cost decreases of the raw materials of the proportionate product, the relevant product. So it's a weighted average mix, and since we are supplying 22 products, are strictly not comparable with other players because they may be supplying only the specific rubber chemicals, conventional rubber chemicals, whereas we are looking at rubber chemicals as well as specialty applications product per se. So one cannot take a weighted average rate straight away and come to conclusions. We have to look at the components of each basket and then take a call.
So going forward, it depends on the quarterly cost-to-cost comparison.
And the input cost of each finished product which we are selling. So it's proportional to that. So accordingly, the corrections happen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ritesh Gupta from Kotak. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my questions. So just a couple of questions. One on what is the volume share of this product called PX13 on which Commerce Ministry has recommended the duties? I mean, does it cover a large part of your volumes? That's one. And second is on the qualifications with US customers. I mean, are you already qualified with most of the US tire manufacturers, or are you still kind of looking to, you have some more clients where you can expand in terms of qualifications, etc.? So these are the two questions I had.
Welflex 13 in the total rubber chemical industry is a main product. It's a driver sort of thing. So in our basket also, it has a significant share. We would not like to quantify what is the quantum of significance, but it's a significant share. This is point number one. Point number two, US also we are expanding gradually as we go along, and we are getting new inquiries and people relationship where we already purchase exists. They are expanding their opening the gates for the US plants or US requirements, and we are also participating in that. But it's a slow, gradual process consolidation. It is not an overnight snatching. It will take over a period of few years before we establish our position there.
Is it the longer qualification process that takes time, or is it that the orders are always gradually ramped up?
It all depends on how the US consumers look at it or customers looks at it. We are mentally ready to even supply overnight, but ultimately you have to give them the space. So few shipments have gone, they will do the trials and they should get confidence, the pricing parameters. So, and they also look at the net cost to them because there are some import duty on Indian exports. So that also is being taken into account.
And so how much is the difference between import duties from India and China versus China?
China is 31.5% today. India is 6.5%.
Okay. But that should give you a very big cost advantage, right?
That's it. But they are also sourcing from EU, European Union also. So there is a little lower duty in European Union.
Got it. So, and if you could just talk about the new product pipeline that you may be looking from within your existing rubber chemicals or some of the other product lines you may be looking at, if you could just talk about that.
I think Mr. Dev just answered that. We had one accelerator and
yeah, so that I heard, but anything else like you are targeting over the next 3-5 years, any new, like you are largely dependent on tire manufacturers today, so if you are targeting any new lines or any basis existing chemistry, you can target something else. That's the direction I was going to.
Mr. Dev will answer that.
So basically, I think we keep on looking at our strengths. We keep on looking at what exactly we can do. But at this point of time, we don't have any consolidated plans to share with you. As we consolidate, we will definitely come back and share all these plans.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Faisal Hawa from HG Hawa and Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations for a good set of numbers and consistently doing well. So my only question is, will we ever look at some kind of a contracting opportunity, or are we being even approached by people to do just some contracting at a good ROC or ROE?
I think we are in a business where I think the contracting opportunities, I'm certain what you are referring, but those type of contracting opportunities do not exist. What exists is a unwritten, long-term business relationship with the customer. Okay. and that's the way this business is. Okay. So the possibility of any long-term contracting, okay, is not existing in this business, not only for NOSIL, for even any of the rubber chemicals manufacturers in China.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just one question on the pricing bit, which has moved up by about 20% on a YY basis, and a lot of that price hike came in the quarter. Let's say until last 4 quarters or last 8 quarters, what we were seeing was that the pricing actions were behind the raw material action, and hence there was some erosion in gross margins. Now, whether it is due to industry dynamic or otherwise, what specifically drives this 20% price hike, and is there any structural change in the industry supply, or was it that because of COVID there were tactical changes in supply and hence the pricing flow through? Your comments will be very helpful on that, because bulk of the swing in the margins that we see is a function of pricing.
Gentlemen, I think we answered this question in 3 folds, in 3 parameters. One is we indicated in the just some time ago to some other investor that the supply-demand equation parameters, which was growing as a degrowing, rubber chemicals was degrowing from September 18 onwards for almost 2 years. That has flattened out and it has started growing. So the supply excess situation which was existing, which was not allowing the price corrections to happen even if there is a cost increases, that was shrinking the margins, number one. Now that has got rectified, and probably from December onwards or November onwards, we are seeing the price corrections happening from the Chinese competition in the form of proportionate to the cost increases. So therefore the price corrections are happening. So I think this is why the key parameter which has changed. Now we believe there is a rated capacity for the competition are still on the higher side as compared to the demand, but at operating level, we are not able to judge or deduce how much operations are having, because the trades are done at operating capabilities rather than the capacity what you have in your system or in books. So ultimately, how much you can deliver or how much you can service, and if your servicing capability is X and the pricing parameters is in relation to what is the servicing capability. As of today, the price corrections are happening in relation to the cost increases or cost decreases.
This price corrections happening related to cost increase, cost decrease, this is true for Chinese guys.
And China being the lead supplier of 75% thereabout, obviously other players will have to follow that.
Yeah, but the expansion in gross margin obviously is higher than now the cost increase. So then I'm just a little bit confused on that comment that you're making. Or you're making a comment based on the 2-year adjustment which should have happened. That's how it is?
Gentlemen, the contracts are done on a quarterly basis, point number one. So every quarter, the negotiation happens with the customers, depending on the competition offers or competitive offers. The question what we are trying to say, and we are trying to give you this guidance, is that for almost 2 years, the rubber chemical industry or automobile industry was degrowing. Now that has stopped, and probably it has flattened out, it has started growing. Obviously, the demand is picking up, and the supply availability, probably, we don't know, is having some restrictions at some competitors' end. So therefore, the price corrections are happening. Otherwise, price correction cannot happen overnight that easily in a degrowing market. But in a growing market, the price corrections happen in relation to the cost increases, and that is what happened this time.
So just a follow-up here. You are back to a pricing level which you had seen about 2.5 years back, quite similar to that pricing. And in one of your comments, you mentioned you don't see any major incremental supply coming. Until last time, there was China Shunscine's, I think, 25,000-30,000 ton capacity which was supposed to come in.
We have not heard any new supplies commissioning of capacities announced by any competitors in the recent past. In the recent
yeah. So if the demand curve is now better than the supply curve, is it fair to assume that these pricing, which were visible 2.5 years back, are here to sustain, or there is some other element which needs to be considered in it?
If the approach taken by competitors holds good for the last 6 months, it should continue for further some more time, unless any player has a different plan altogether.
Okay, so it won't be induced by supply. Any changes in pricing should be induced by competition. That's the interpretation you have.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much and all the best to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Jain from Moneylife Advisory Services. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity and congratulations on the result. My only question is, how has been the sales picking up for the new accelerator which was launched in the previous year, and what is the capacity utilization for this particular product?
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear you, please.
How has been the sales picking up for this new accelerator which was launched in the previous year, and what has been the capacity utilization for this particular product?
It is not appropriate to get into product specifics, but what we can say, approvals are there and we are already operating at reasonable levels.
Okay. And how much does it contribute to the overall revenue? Can you specify?
This business, this particular product, we have talked about 250 to 300 crores business in the country, in India, and we are having a share out of that.
Okay. Can you just specify what is the current market share in this product?
Current market share? No, I think we would not like to get into any product specifics.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question is from the line of Ravi Mehta from Deep Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Just one small clarification required. So when I look at the sequential jump in realization of 20%, probably it's not fully reflecting in the gross margin improvement. So are we expecting some more full effect of the price pass-through to be seen in the coming quarters and hence some more expansion in margins possible?
Point number one, we clarified that the price corrections have happened in January 21 and April 21, which has already been built in.
Sure.
Now, coming to from July 21 onwards, we said two things. There are some finished products on which the proportionate raw materials have gone on increasing trend. Cost increases are there. Therefore, we have still made a corrections in those particular set of finished products. And there are some products where the raw materials of those particular finished goods have shown a downward trend, and we have also corrected downwards also in that. So we have to look at the weighted average component basket as the actual volumes at the time of Q2. This is point number one. Point two, as far as gross margin expansion is concerned, I think we have already been giving a message that we don't wish to talk about gross margin expansion or gross margin parameters. We look at absolute parameters of EBITDA, and that's what we are focusing on. Because in a high price regime, you cannot look at gross margin separately and conversion cost separately. In a high cost on a high price regime, you would like to look at absolute EBITDA. That is more important to the business.
Sure. Okay, got it. And also on one comment is that you have some high cost inventory. So probably you alluded that some raw materials are cooling off.
We have some legacy costs coming in Q2, which we have already addressed it in the previous questions.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Due to time constraint, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be closing this call now. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. S.R. Dev for closing comments.
Thank you very much. So after all this discussion, to conclude, I would like to say that with new capacity on stream and being one of the largest non-Chinese rubber chemicals player, possessing niche R&D capabilities, we are confident to gain market shares going forward. We see the strong growth momentum sustaining on an annual basis. We aim to scale up the business sustainability and in a profitable way over the coming years. I take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining the call. I hope we have been able to address all your queries. For any further information, kindly get in touch with NOSIL or Strategic Growth Advisors, our investment relation advisor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of NOSIL Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.